The Utah Jazz are on a winning streak. Is this sustainable or is it just a fluke?
All right, so let's go ahead and break down a little bit of Utah Jazz basketball, shall we?
Oh man, I'm so ready for this.
Yeah, let's talk about
it. Dude,
man.
The Jazz have been absolutely tearing it up.
Yes, they have. We'll get into what's changed, but let's go ahead and talk about our Utah Jazz. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now. They are 15-4 in their last 19 games. By the way, that is the best record in the NBA over that stretch. Currently, they're sitting in the 9th spot. They're 1.5 games over the Lakers for the 10th spot, and they are only half a game back from the Suns in the 8th spot. We did talk about on a previous episode there. If you guys listened to the podcast, it is available on the podcast. Full episode last week is available on our channel underneath the podcast. Be sure to check that out. We also have it available audio only wherever you get your podcast. It's also available on our website at dnasportsrecap.com. So be sure to check it out there. We talked a little bit about the Utah Jazz last week and how they surprisingly on that road trip went 2-3. They only had one loss, which was weird to see them take down Milwaukee in Milwaukee. The fact that the one loss was to Boston. First game of the road trip, kind of expected.
First game of the road trip, and Boston's a really, really good basketball team. Boston is just, they look like a buzzsaw. They treated the Jazz like they were a buzzsaw. And then the Jazz got right back to it, man. You know, they went on the road. They went against Milwaukee and took them down. They went to Philly and took them down, and they just continued rolling since then. And this isn't like these Jazz are just winning some mediocre lower end teams. I mean, they beat the Nuggets in the stretch.
Yeah,
like we said in our last video, arguably their best win of the whole season, and they look good doing it.
Looked great doing it. It wasn't even close, man. That win against Denver.
So I want to ask you a question: who do you think is the Jazz's best lineup that they've put on the floor in this winning streak?
Best lineup, I would say it's going to be So we got Kessler at the 5, Dunn at the point guard, Sexton at the shooting guard position, Larry Markin at the 3, and we have Olynyk.
So the lineup that's played the most reps together with a positive plus minus: Chris Dunn, Colin Sexton, Simone Fontecchio, Lauri Markkanen, and John Collins. Those guys have a plus minus of 9.2 and are shooting an effective field goal percentage of 62.9% when they're on the field. These guys have played a combined 269 possessions together. Most of all lineups for the Utah Jazz for a plus minus of 9.2 is very, very impressive.
Go into that a little bit more for me.
Okay. I just want to point out that these guys are not, this isn't streaky shooting that these guys have. Chris Dunn is a very effective scorer. Colin Sexton is shooting right at his career average. Simone Fontecchio is shooting 41%, is great from 3, but that's not absurd, right? Lauri Markkanen's a very effective 3-point shooter, and John Collins is as much as you and I have complained about John Collins, he is a great offensive rebounder, which leads to high percentage shots on putbacks.
Yeah, so you're welcome.
All of these percentages that these guys are doing on this to shoot an effective field goal percentage of 62.9% is not super unrealistic, and it's not something that's just out of their mind. All these guys get to their places, they rebound the ball on offense, and they make the extra pass when people are open.
Absolutely.
This is an effective lineup that once they found it, it is just beating teams into the ground. Right.
To a fault a little bit, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're passing up a wide open layup for an even better open layup. So it could get, it's a little,
what's crazy is that's not even the most efficient lineup that the Jazz have put out there yet.
Really?
Yeah. When the Jazz make all of their bench changes and they put Keontae George, Jordan Clarkson, Fontecchio usually stays out, Markkanen stays on the floor, and they switch Collins for Kessler. The plus minus then moves to a 28.1, plus 28 when those 5 guys are on the floor. It's a smaller sample size, right? These guys have only played 107 possessions together. But when they are out there with those 4 guys, they can space the floor because they've got 4 shooters out there. Markkanen, Fontecchio, Clarkson, and George can all shoot the 3. You've got willing passers. They're good. They're a great defensive presence when they're out there. Clarkson's really your only guy that's kind of a quote unquote not great defender. He's so much more used to playing with a shot blocking big after playing so many years with Rudy. Jordan Clarkson thrives in those defensive. He's able to push up and play tight defensive. And if the guy gets past him, you just feed him into Walker Kessler.
Yeah, he's very much a helper.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he does a great job on that from the defensive end. That's actually something I wanted to mention. I did notice over this winning streak that his defensive prowess is a little bit better than what a lot of people are giving credit for, specifically because of that reason.
Jordan Clarkson has been playing fantastic basketball over this winning streak. I think he's more comfortable coming off the bench. I think he likes playing with Keontae George because those guys, they work really well off of each other, and they just apply enough pressure. The teams have to respect both of their ability to drive the lane and shoot the basketball.
Yeah, you and I were kind of at odds at this after they signed his contract. You thought he was going to be a starting guard, and I really thought that was just not going to be a good fit for him.
Yeah.
He really needed to come off the bench in order to be effective. I think he did have a chance to prove himself as a starter, but honestly, man, he does have the talent, but he really needs to be the type of guy who's, basically just put your head down and kind of go get the basket for us. And we don't really need a spot for that on the starting rotation.
I could see Jordan Clarkson winning 6 Men of the Year again if the way that he's playing continues this year.
Simple thought. Let's boil this down to, is this sustainable or is this a fluke?
This is 100% sustainable. The Jazz are playing team basketball. They've finally gotten into a groove. They understand where people are going to be on the floor. None of these shooting percentages. I mean, you look at all the trends over the last 10 games, which they've played really great basketball in the last 10 games. You look at the trends. Nobody's doing anything absolutely absurd. No one's shooting over their averages. They're playing good team defense. They understand switching. They're feeding offensive players into Walker Kessler, which is ridiculously effective because he's such a great shot blocker. He's long. Teams and players shoot a very low percentage against him, points well below their averages. They're learning how to defend in space. They're actually applying pressure. They found the way to actually score the basketball with lineups that are working. This could be the Jazz team we watch the rest of the year, which means, surprise, surprise, the Jazz make the playoffs this year. They continue playing like this, they are making the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that one. I never wanted to back off of our original claim. We did say they're going to be a playoff team. I did say they were going to be a play-in team. There are a few key things that I want to talk about. We did talk about Colin Sexton a lot over the last 2 weeks. I do want to touch on one thing, though, that kind of flies in the face of what you said there about people not playing over their averages. Colin Sexton has more points than minutes over this winning streak. That is direct
interesting.
That is direct from Locke himself on the broadcast.
Thank you, David Locke.
So absolutely, thank you, David Locke, for that one. But yeah, I do see that. I don't think that's a flash in the pan. I really think this guy has found his spot. I really think as this team progresses, when you see JC out there with Keontae George running the point and then JC being the bucket getter, but then in the starting lineup, you have the exact opposite. You have Colin Sexton as the bucket getter, and you've got Dunn as the facilitator, finding the right spot for these players to be at. It just kind of switches out. But I actually think it's much simpler than that. We could break it down all this. I think a lot of this does have to do. We have a healthy JC and we have a healthy Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, I mean, all the lineup changes that we kind of went through. We were always missing something in both of those lineups, right? And in that starting lineup, we were missing Markkanen scoring. And in that bench lineup, we were also missing Jordan Clarkson scoring. And once we made those kind of changes, the lineup just flipped over, man. All of a sudden, everybody was just like, oh, hey, I've got one more person to pass the ball to. Oh, hey, I can actually sag back and let Jordan just drive to the basket, and he's going to kick it out to me for a three. And then to go one step further, they found a really tough defensive unit. When you've got Keontae George out there and Jordan Clarkson out there, Ochai Agbaji, Kelly Olynyk, Walker Kessler, that is a really tough defensive second unit. When teams are on a run and you make those and you switch those guys in, that squad has a plus 5.5, the defensive stopper unit, and they only allow 108 points on 100 possessions. Those guys are really getting stops. They're grinding it. They're not the best offensive unit, right? They struggle to get the ball in the hoop, but you still got Jordan Clarkson out there who can get a basket when you need one, and you can get a stop every single time.
Top 10 in offense over the last 19 games.
It's been fantastic, man. It's been such a fun team to watch. They continue to score the basketball. I mean, they play tough defense. Dude, they just look like they're having fun. This is the Utah Jazz team that I want to watch.
I think one of the biggest things is they're turning around the first quarter, man. They're shooting lights out in the first quarter, and they're coming out punching versus trying to play and catch up.
Yep.
I think they keep what they're doing. They keep the turnovers low. They're in a good spot. Let us know in the comments down below, folks. What do you think? Are we off on this? Do you still think the Utah Jazz are going to be a play-in team? Do you think they'll make the playoffs? Do you think they're going to fall out? Is this run sustainable for the Jazz? Obviously, they're not going to go 15-4 over the rest of the season, that type of winning clip. But do you think this is sustainable, something they can go on and on with? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, folks, keep in mind this is available as a podcast. The full episode of what we talked about today will be available for that. We did talk a little bit about the NBA that we probably cut out of this video. So make sure that if you want to see what we talked about outside the Utah Jazz, make sure you see the full podcast, which is available on our playlist underneath podcasts. It's also available audio only wherever you get your podcasts. It's also available on our website at dnasportsrecap.com.
Yep. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, starting in February, we are going to start live streaming the show. Make sure you tune in, hit the subscribe button. We're going to make sure we interact with all you guys. So stay tuned in. We look forward to live streaming with you guys.
Also, smash that like button for us, would you? Hit that like button for us.
Smash it.
Follow us on Instagram. If you guys check us out there, we'll be sure to give you a follow back for sure. With all that said, my name is Darren. That is AJ, and this has been the DNA Sports Recap.
Till next time.